Good morning. Hello and welcome to the 2026 Insurance Times eTrading Report webinar hosted in association with our sponsor Aviva. My name is Yanis Katoulis, editor at Insurance Times, and I'll be hosting today's panel discussion as we take a deep dive into this year's eTrading report, which takes an annual look at the eTrading performance of the insurance market's largest e-traders, while also surveying brokers on the improvements and updates that they would like to see. Before I introduce our expert panel, however, just a quick housekeeping note. Today's webinar has been pre-recorded, so we will not be able to field live questions, but you do get the benefit of being able to pause the discussion if you need to jump onto a call or get out for the door. But with all that done, let me introduce today's excellent panel. Joining me from Insurance Times is our Head of Research, Savan Shah, who has been in charge of producing the annual eTrading report for nearly a decade now. Morning, Savan.
Morning.
And from our sponsor Aviva, we are joined by both Rebecca Gambrell, and Managing Director for SME and Delegated Authorities, and Chris Whiting, Head of SME Optimization. Welcome to you both.
Good morning.
And rounding out the panel, and providing our broker perspective, we are also joined by Mark Thomas, Chief Executive at Compare Insurance. Good to see you, Mark.
See you as well. Good morning.
Good morning. So let's get into the topic. The Insurance Times eTrading survey has been produced every year now for 12 years. And for 8 of those years, we've also been assigning a star rating to assess the performance of the market's largest insurers. Our publication has also sought to survey brokers on how they perceive these experiences, with interesting results about the future of the trading method drawn out from the data. Savan, if we could start off with you, could you kick us off by providing some of the highlights and interesting insights from this year's report?
Yeah, of course. And firstly, I have to take the opportunity to thank over 750 brokers nationwide that took the time to really contribute to the survey and provide that detailed qualitative and quantitative insight that we will be discussing today. And of course, if anyone wants to view the full report, feel free to visit insurancetimes.co.uk/research. That's a quick little plug from me. But of course, and yes, many kind of key themes emerge from this year's survey. And a big theme to kind of emerge was brokers are becoming more kind of pragmatic and outcome-led when they kind of e-trade. There's no longer a kind of a simple debate of insurer extranet versus kind of software house. Around kind of 69% of brokers now mainly use a combination of both routes, and that's up from 61% last year. So, brokers are not necessarily loyal to one route, and they're choosing the route that really kind of helps them get the risk placed most efficiently. And we actually went one step further as well to ask brokers, what would be their preferred route if they had to trade via one route. And 54% of brokers stated that software houses, compared with 21% choosing insurer extranets. So that kind of tells us that software houses are often the default kind of trading workflow, but extranets still matter where they can provide better appetite, price, cover, or service. And then one of the really kind of standout highlights of the survey was the kind of fantastic performance by Aviva across the board. So, of course, we try to investigate the entire kind of journey of the e-trading experience for brokers, looking specifically of brokers' experience of insurer extranets, insurers via software houses, but then, of course, looking at software houses as well. So, in terms of Aviva Fast Trade, this was the 8th consecutive year that Aviva Fast Trade has achieved an overall 5-star rating and remained number 1 in the rankings, and improved their score to a very high score of 4.43 this year, rising from 4.35 in 2025. And then, of course, we look at how insurers are performing via software houses, and of course, there's much more. There's a lot of complexity in that route as well, and this is the 5th year in a row that Aviva have achieved 5-star rating across in that particular in area of investigation.
Absolutely. I think those are some excellent top-line highlights from the report there, Sav, and I think some of the points that you've touched on, we have a great panel here to discuss, and I'm sure we can dive into them as well. I think one of the most interesting aspects of e-trading, like you mentioned, was the competitiveness of it, and where, counter to normal sorts of insurance trading, e-trading has this necessity to be constantly updated, to be becoming more and more competitive, and to allow brokers to service their customers faster and faster. I think that's something that's really important. Mark, I know that your business, Compare Insurance, is very enmeshed in the e-trading world. What is it that you want to see as a market improvement when you're looking for updating the e-trading process?
Yeah, we're classifying ourselves as a digital broker, essentially. So about over 70% of our business goes via e-trade, essentially. So for us, it's all about speed and flexibility. Definitely the key aspects looking for e-trade.
Yeah, that speed and flexibility is something that's come through. Sav, I'm sure you agree on the report and all the survey that we record. Rebecca, I know that Aviva is obviously takes feedback from its brokers when they're e-trading as well. I mean, could you talk to me a little bit from the other perspective? How are you responding to that need for speed and flexibility?
Absolutely, and I think that's why broker feedback is so key, because it means that we can help improve our systems, whether that's eTrade or extranet, to make it easier for them to place business for their customers. So speed, absolutely, speed of response and trading has really been a sort of a key area of focus for us over the last 12 months or so. We know that speed of response is key to our brokers, and that they've required probably a bit more support actually to navigate the challenging market at the moment as well. So we've put a lot of focus into that. We've put a lot of investment into technology to help make our speed of response much quicker and much slicker. As an example, 75% of our new business referrals are now handled in 60 minutes. A year ago, that was only 37%. So we've really invested in making sure that we're getting back quickly for the broker, so that they can go back to their customer and place the business really easily. So that's absolutely been a key focus for us, given the feedback that we've had.
Absolutely. And Chris, I know that in your position, you're much more focused on the kind of propositions and new products that Aviva is putting out as well. But how can that actually be supported with the launch of new improvements from insurers?
Yeah, absolutely, Yanis. I think we spoke about speed and flexibility, but actually one additional point, which was a really key theme that came away from my conversations at Aviva this year, was actually brokers having a clear focus in this market on deepening client relationships and wanting more cross-sell support from insurers. And look, this makes perfect sense as a focus in this market to help brokers strengthen their portfolio value and overall client protection, but also bolster retention in an increasingly competitive market. And I think that's an area that we're really committed to, going further to support our brokers with giving them better and more relevant cross-sell insights moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that brokers are always looking to do, is deepen those client relationships. And e-trading, as we know, has to be constantly updated. It's something I've mentioned already, and that broker feedback and the loop that comes from that is such an excellent way of making sure that people are all getting what they want, and the customers at the end of it are being serviced properly. I think that's one of the things with e-trade as well, isn't it? Is that when we first got used to the concept as a method of trading, I think it was quite limited in what sort of products could be on there. And as it's developed as a method of trading, we've managed to put increasingly complex insurance products onto the e-trade funnel as well. Chris, coming back to you there, I mean, what new boundaries are being pushed about the complexities of products from insurers? Because that's something that brokers are always asking for.
Yeah, definitely, Yanis. I think we're definitely seeing that trend towards greater digitization in terms of brokers want to place more business through digital channels, but also larger business as well. And I think as Aviva, our strategy is around making it as easy as possible for our brokers to place business through our digital channels and ensuring that we have the right propositions, the right appetite, and also the right journeys to be able to match this ambition. I think from an appetite perspective, within Aviva, we expanded our mini fleet acceptance criteria to support up to 20 vehicles at new business earlier this year, scaling to up to 30 at midterm and renewal. And we've taken a similar approach with property owners where we already support up to 20 locations. So we're pushing the boundaries and scaling our appetite against those enhanced broker ambitions. And I think coming back to the eTrade survey, we're really proud to have leading quotability scores across extranet and eTrade, and that reflects kind of our focus in this area that we're keen to double down on. I think another product I'd mention is commercial combined. We've completed the modularization of our proposition earlier this year, and this is a significant step forward because it allows our brokers to build cover specifically around the needs of their clients, whether that's property or liability or combination. And we're seeing really good adoption with over 30% of our new business policies taking out modular covers, which tells us that depackaging of kind of core cover is really resonating with our brokers and their customers, and ultimately helping our brokers place more through our digital channels.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that, as you say, brokers are increasingly demanding. And while we have you on the panel, Mark, I guess that's something to ask you. Is that a development you've seen over the time that your business has grown, the necessity to put more complex products via the e-trading funnel?
Exactly that. We've seen massive developments. I think what Aviva have done for that journey has been fantastic. So our first port of call is to try and place all business via eTrade initially, and obviously if it doesn't then progress, then we can take it to the more manual markets. But what we've seen in the last couple of years is a giant leap, really, in what can be accepted very quickly, very straightforwardly on eTrade. The guys obviously using far more sophisticated data and systems. Benefit to us as a broker is now from an efficiencies perspective, we can place, I said over 70% of our business now all fits via eTrade, and that's increasing year on year. Every year that percentage is increasing, and the commercial combined now becoming digitalized is a massive step forward for us as well, really. So, look, we want to get to the point where 100% of our business fits via eTrade on that digital journey, and it seems to be going that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're definitely seeing those improvements. And Savan, I wanted to ask you as well what our research says on these topics.
I just wanted to add to that because, of course, for a number of years now, we look at how the time kind of taken for complex products to be traded, and of course, one of the themes that came out through the broker feedback was, the broker confidence really depends on the handling of the referral, the support, and the underwriting flexibility. Across the kind of entire, all the brokers that took part, over 750 brokers that took part, we found that 68% of the referrals still take a day or more, and 39% stated it takes 2 or more days. So, of course, brokers in the survey are very much open to digitizing more complex products, but only if the process does not mean that the complexity slows down the kind of referral queue. So what brokers were saying they needed was better triage, clearer appetite rules, and smarter question sets. And that also touches upon a point that we were looking at a few minutes ago, just about kind of the kind of acceptability of longer kind of question sets. And we asked brokers, how acceptable would it be to answer a longer question set if it reduced the number of referrals? And broadly, brokers are willing to trade a longer digital journey for fewer referrals, provided that the kind of extra effort feels proportionate. A combined 78% describe a longer question set as at least moderately kind of acceptable, and 46% moderately, and then so yeah, this kind of suggests that the appetite is for the kind of right the first time trading, where better upfront capture removes avoidable stop starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that really speaks to the balance of that implementation that I think a lot of brokers, as you say, have reported to us, which is that they would absolutely like to be able to trade more complex products in an e-trade capacity, but that isn't just a "we are now doing it" product. That has to be a look. The product actually trades well, and you can do it with a minimum of fuss. And is that something that you have a perspective on as an insurer as well? I mean, because it's it's much easier said than done, isn't it? But I'm sure that there's a lot of process and work that goes into making sure that this happens for brokers.
Absolutely, and I think there's a balance, as you say, Yanis, between the two, because I think that's why it's really, as I've said earlier, I think that's why it's really important to make sure that your sort of speed of response on referrals is really quick, and you can turn around those, particularly on new business, those referrals in sort of 30 minutes, 60 minutes. So that's really important. But then that balance with the question set, getting the right risk details for the right risks, and making sure that we as an insurer understand the risk and understand the customer. It's much easier to control that in an extranet environment, because you're not sharing a question set across the market, which is why we can be a bit more dynamic with those question sets from a extranet perspective. But I think that's where the balance is. You've got the dynamism, I suppose, of an extranet versus actually making sure that the service wraparound on that is absolutely focused on speed of response. People shouldn't be waiting 2 days now to get a response on a referral. So that's why we've doubled down on the technology and the capability within our teams to be able to support that fast turnaround. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's something that the day versus kind of 2 days is such a quickening of the time. And, as the product continues to develop, I'm sure that will get down even further. Mark, I mean, you can maybe speak to the benefits of that kind of speed increase, because it's allowed you to grow your business.
Yeah, look, we're achieving 40% year-on-year growth, and it's all being driven down that digital journey. From our perspective, we don't wait, a day or 2 days. We work with Aviva, and our guys will be live on a phone to a client, submitting that via eTrade, also live chatting directly with Aviva at the same time. So we're getting underwriting assistance while we're conversing with the client. So we don't have that stop-start process with the clients. We try and streamline it as much as possible. So that live chat, instant response from insurers like Aviva is essential for us. But then also, when we do need to get a referral, we pick up the phone, have a conversation, really quick answer time, get the information we need there and then, have a conversation regarding the risk. And if there are any bottlenecks or issues with that risk, it can be normally smoothed over pretty quickly. So we're not seeing a day or two, we're seeing really quick responses from underwriting. And that's what our clients need, essentially. They can't wait a day or two. So we go down a slightly different route. We are slightly different as well, and we are a digital broker, but that's how we get support from Aviva is instant, essentially, and it's helping us massively.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's worth, in terms of your business, Mark, it's worth maybe zooming out a little bit and talking about what the benefits of that digital broker strategy are. I mean, why is it that you've decided to operate like that? Is it serving customers? Is it about the 40% year-on-year growth that you just mentioned there?
It's a really good question. I think what we're trying to do is use digital efficiencies to give all SMEs, micro SMEs, I call it the VIP treatment. I don't think a client should get different service levels depending on how big their account is. And because we work on, as I said, digital efficiencies, automation, we drive through about over 200 fresh inquiries per day come in to compare from SMEs across the whole of the UK. So from our perspective, we have to have a really slick, efficient process to give those clients the top levels of service and still remain profitable. And that's the balance that we're always playing, really. So the digital journey for us means we can work on a volume basis, give exceptional customer service to our clients, competitive rates, but also we can work at a volume basis. So SMEs, micro SMEs, who I would say traditionally been underserved in the market, I would like to think now we're getting the top levels of service they deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that customer segment that you're describing there as well is one of them that has definitely benefited from this increase in the capability of e-trading as well. And I mean, Rebecca, maybe that's something you can speak to as well. Is this kind of a market trend that you're seeing, that brokers of this type are increasingly looking to digitize more business? And maybe you could speak to what you think is driving some of that.
Yes, I do, and I think actually it's across the broker landscape, particularly for SMEs. I think there is more of a drive to digitisation, partly driven by the efficiency that brings, and partly driven by, I guess, wider appetites within the market from a digital SME perspective. So we're absolutely seeing it, and I think at Aviva, what we're trying to do to support that is a number of things. I think we've touched on some of them already as well. So that sort of expanded appetite, how can you broaden the product to help meet more customer needs and to be more flexible in that as well. So we spoke about modularization of the commercial combined product and making that really flexible and tailorable for the customer. Then I think it's about ease of journey as well. So ensuring that it's you've got that sort of slick process to enable the broker to digitize more. If it's not easy, then brokers aren't going to do it, and they're not. Their teams aren't going to want to do it either if it's not that smooth, slick journey. So that ease of the journey is really important as well. And then I think there's a bit around sort of product breadth as well. We've just launched our new contractors combined product on both fast trade and on the extranet and on eTrade. So that's again giving more opportunity for customers to have that digital product and for brokers to have that easier journey and to gain that efficiency in another area. So I think it's really important, and I'm Chris and I spend most of our days talking about how we can help support brokers digitize both internally and obviously with our brokers as well.
Did you want to jump in on that, Chris? I mean, you've been name checked. Maybe you could speak to your perspective on what it is that you're doing to kind of help insurers support that digitalization then.
Yeah, absolutely, Yanis. I think it comes back to what Mark mentioned around immediacy. Brokers want really frictionless journeys, and be able to expand that now with kind of larger and probably more complex risks being traded through digital channels as well. And what I'd probably speak to is we're continuing to invest really heavily in fast trade through our extranet to make the journeys faster and easier, and to enable our brokers to place larger risk digitally with us. So far this year, we've delivered over 190 enhancements to our proposition, our pricing, and our user experience. And, two recent examples in property owners have been launched to help our brokers kind of digitize more, larger risks. So, for example, we've launched a new clone premises functionality, which makes it easier to enter multi-property risks where locations share the same postcode onto fast trade. So effectively accelerating the journey to retrieve multi-property location quotes on fast trade. And secondly, we've launched a bulk upload tool, again in property owners, that allows our brokers to upload new to Aviva structured policy data onto fast trade to bulk return fast trade quotes. And that's really to support consolidation to digital moving forward. So it's definitely an area that we're going to continue to optimize and improve in line with our brokers' aspirations and ambitions to digitize more going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are all welcome developments as well. And Sav, I mean, maybe we can kind of take from our report to say what the wider market is looking to do as well. I mean, we've heard from Mark saying that this is absolutely welcome. We've heard what Aviva is doing, but is this a pattern that's repeated across the market? Are people really looking for this growth in e-trade generally?
Yeah, of course. With some of the kind of general insights that we looked at in the survey and the feedback, it really came across where brokers are looking for that efficiency, that comparison, reducing rekeying, and the access to that market breadth as well. So it's like what really came across was like brokers are not just digitizing for the sake of it. They want to digitize when it's saves time, reduces kind of duplication, and gets them to a better kind of market view faster. And some of the insights that we found that touches upon that is due to some of the kind of reasons they put forward of why they trade via a certain route. So for example, the top reason that was stated why they trade via software houses is the ability to consistently compare. 67% of brokers stated that that was their kind of top kind of factor, followed by only needing to key the risk data in once, and followed by the ease of kind of market kind of search as well. So I think areas like this are very important. The kind of having the ability to really kind of reduce and drive that kind of workflow efficiency to get that outcome. And I think it's really come across in the survey. Brokers are really leading with that kind of outcome-led decision making, and whichever route they take to get the best possible outcome for their customers, it has to drive those things across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an interesting insight that we surveyed in the report, was that preference for either software house or extranet, or whether there is a preference at all. I think that's an interesting debate around how e-trading actually happens as well. And Mark, I know that when we caught up before, that was something that you kind of mentioned. What would you like to give the audience your kind of perspective on that debate?
Yeah, it's interesting. So from our perspective, software house for us is Actress. So we typically place everything via Actress to get those multiple options for the client. But obviously, as Rebecca's alluded to, it's a pre-agreed question set with a lot of insurers. So it is a large question set. So from our perspective, I think there is something to be said about maybe from the future for us, the business, looking at direct to insurers, if they can be more flexible and have control over that journey. That would create a question for us then regarding, what is the most efficient route? Do you get multiple options but a huge question set potentially, or do you then look at maybe smaller options but a very reduced question set for efficiency for the client? So it's interesting to see how that pans out and see what insurers do directly on their extranets regarding dynamic question sets, reduced question sets, and then that maybe creates a question for the market then about which option is best for them as a business and best for their clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that something you'd echo, Chris? Is that kind of Aviva's strategy, where we talk about kind of the software platforms versus your own extranet?
Definitely, Yanis. So look, I completely understand. I think the drive towards software house placement, for the reasons that Mark and Sav have alluded to around greater efficiency, not having to rekey and getting those comparable quotes. I think ultimately at Aviva, our strategy really is to be broker led. We want to support brokers regardless of their placement strategy or channel of choice. But what I would say, and perhaps a bit of a plug to Mark based on his answer, but with Fast Trade, because we control the journey, we can make this a lot more frictionless and smarter for our brokers to go through. For example, time to quote for mini fleet is 5 minutes to get a quote on Fast Trade, and I think it's 3 minutes on our self-employed product. And that reflects the continuous changes and developments we're making to make that journey as frictionless as possible. We also, because we own the journey, again, we're able to add some value add features like automatic under insurance detection at new business and renewal. And that's really there to help our brokers provide even greater protection to their clients. So of course, we'd love our brokers to be Fast Trade first, and we definitely encourage this for the best journeys and propositions. But equally, we recognize that placement strategies are changing, and we're really committed to supporting brokers in Actress eTrade if that is their channel of choice.
Yeah, as you say, I think that feedback-led broker responsiveness is why we have to go. But I can see the benefits of both strategies, and I think we were pretty split down the middle where we look at the responses from the eTrade survey on how brokers like to trade with Aviva. So I think that really comes through in the data.
If I can just add something, Yanis, because of course with the each year within the survey we look at a number of factors that determine how each insurer extranet has performed, and one of the areas that Aviva Fast Trade really performed really well in, and has done for a number of years, hence why the consecutive 5-star rating has been in usability and trading ease, and achieving a really high score of 4.56 out of 5, achieving that 5-star rated 5-star rated from brokers. But of course, Of course, there's a lot of kind of competition, and each insurer extranet is trying to learn from each other and learn from their brokers to do better kind of each year, and to be ranked in first place out of 11 insurer extranets is a fantastic achievement, and is something that has Aviva Fast Trade have really been performing really well with, and amongst the other areas how we look at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that decision about where to trade with eTrading is an interesting one, and we'll see how that develops, because I think it's an interesting dynamic. But what I wanted to also talk about was this concept of service. It's something we've kind of talked about a fair bit on the discussion already, but I think it becomes increasingly important at the moment when, I think, as we all know, the market is either softening or soft, depending on your own view. And I think that is something that often brings up and clarifies the importance of service, especially from insurers to brokers, and especially from brokers to their clients as well. And that is obviously an element that filters back down into e-trading as well. And I wanted to ask you, Mark, how does that soft market condition, how does that impact your e-trading development, and does it make being competitive all the more important?
Very much does. It does make you being competitive. People are more price sensitive, and obviously than before, and obviously the softening market has maybe enhanced that. So from our perspective, I still bring it back to flexibility in those circumstances. So from an efficiency perspective, we still want to have that conversation with clients and not have to refer that. And also, like I said, really quick response times over the phone. If you can call and have a conversation around a rate with an underwriter, get a really quick response to that. That flexibility is massively important in a soft market. So it's when brokers need support more than ever, I think, is in a soft market. And in fairness, I have to say that I feel like we are definitely receiving that. So we are continuing to grow organically. Our retention rates are the same, but it's just that flexibility and that ability to alter a price without referring it, or if you have a conversation on the right, to have a very quick response to that. That's key, I think. Otherwise, the client will just go elsewhere. And I feel like, with Aviva, very much that's the level of support we get.
Lovely. Chris, I mean, that's kind words from Mark there. I mean, what would you say about the impact of the soft market and how that impacts on your e-trading development?
Yeah, first, we're delighted in Mark's response, and we're really glad that level of flexibility is really supporting in terms of getting the right outcomes for their customers. I think, as you touched on, I think the SME market cycle has shifted, and I think where our broker partners have felt increased pressure is on client retention, and that's an area that we've been particularly focused on to provide more support, particularly in e-trade. So as Mark alluded to, I think in terms of flexibility, we give brokers the ability to flex premium within the system on both fast trade and e-trade, and we've definitely seen an increase in usage this year, which I think shows the importance that our brokers place in having that flexibility to be able to adjust premium seamlessly where required to support both new business and retention. But another area that we're really looking to support brokers with in navigate this market conditions is really equipping our brokers with really clear and compelling reasons to renew that they can proactively share with their clients, which are focused on demonstrating the value that we can provide with our claims proposition and instilling confidence in our approach to deliver sustainable long-term value. And if I touch on that just for a second, I think one of the key reasons to renew thing with Aviva is around that we're looking to proactively share with our brokers is around that claims proposition. We manage the entire commercial motor claims journey end to end, from first notification through to repair and settlement. And I think that gives us far greater control over customer outcomes. We're also making the process much easier and faster for our brokers and customers in terms of offering more same-day payments, but also giving our brokers real-time visibility of their clients' latest claims updates through their own systems with our Actress Claims API that we launched earlier last year. But where I think we really stand out as Aviva is in our repair capability, and this is where we've doubled down with a new proposition in fast trade for our mini fleet customers. So we're the only insurer in the UK with a wholly owned repair network in Solus, and that gives us a direct control over the quality, speed, and cost of repairs through our 22 garage network across the UK. And through Solus, we know we can get vehicles back on the road, I think around 50% quicker than the external repair networks. And that's particularly important for SME customers where, every day off the road impacts their business and their livelihoods. And so that's a really powerful message for our brokers to share at renewal, particularly in this market where there could be cheaper options available, but they may not offer that same level of claims confidence. And only earlier this month, we've launched a new claims proposition that provides a reduced excess enhancement to our fast trade mini fleet customers. So customers that notify us of a loss by the following day get £100 off their excess. And if they use our Solus repair network or another Aviva approved supplier, then we waive another £100 off the excess. So effectively, customers save up to £200 with no additional cost, and we're confident we can provide superior claims outcomes in terms of getting them back to normal if we're able to service it through Solus. I think that the final point I'd make around, supporting our SME brokers and customers in this market is around our approach to our pricing. We take a consistent longer term approach to pricing. And whilst, Mark's point is really important around being competitive on price and responding to market conditions, our focus is also around avoiding unnecessary volatility or unjustified larger swings in premium for our clients at renewal. And we think that consistency and sustainability offers better outcomes longer term. So I think whilst the market has been really tough, I think we're looking to, respond to support our brokers navigate current market conditions. And ultimately, we think that will help further drive eTrade development as we go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. This is quite a holistic view of eTrade there, is that it's, that the eTrade is the method, but the insurance proposition is still, very claims led, especially in a soft market as well, because that is often the service that the customers at the end are after as well. And would you add anything to Chris's point there, Rebecca, around the soft market conditions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Mark touched on it as well in terms of the importance of service as a differentiator. And I've said that, we know and we understand that service is key to our brokers, but I don't think it's just about that speed of response, which we spoke about. I think it's about the quality of that conversation as well and the interaction. We continue to upskill underwriters to make sure that when brokers are asking to us, they're the decision makers, they've got the correct levels of authority to handle queries really quickly and effectively. And again, that helps with that speed of response, but it also means that when Mark phones us, first time he's getting the answer right away, he's spoken to the right person immediately. So I think that quality of response is really important in that as well. And this year also, we've been focused on sort of proactively contacting our brokers to support them in placing more business digitally. So if a quote comes in, we will reach out to the broker to speak about that and see what we can do, see how we can support them, particularly given the market, see how we can support them to place that risk and help support that customer as well. So I think that service proposition is absolutely speed of response, but also backed with the quality of the underwriters and the quality of the conversation.
Yeah, I think it's important to highlight that qualitative response is also just as important as the quantity. And at insurers of your size and your competitors that are kind of competing at the very top of the e-trading game, I think it's important to have a balance and do both very well. Otherwise, brokers will get a quick response, but if it's not a great one, then they can't necessarily use that all too well. I think that does kind of tell on one of the more interesting aspects of e-trade as well, as compared to normal trading, is that there's a quantity and a volume that is allowed via the methods, and what that allows is also kind of both sides of the transaction to utilize the data that comes through from that and to really build profiles of customers and show us how we can further improve and continue to kind of build that momentum. Mark, I mean, that's must be a large advantage of your business being a digital broker as you define it. I mean, how do you use that data from your e-trading proposition to kind of continue to improve as well?
Yes, it's a good question. We adopted a team of digital analysts about maybe 4 years ago now. So we've got a team of 4 now, essentially. And that was a real game changer for us, having that granular level of data across all aspects of the business, essentially. So data drives everything we do, from our marketing to what segments we target. It's all data orientated, and we like to work with insurers to share that data and collaborate. So, for example, if insurers when insurers share with us data as to where they're getting wins, where they're really competitive in certain aspects, we can be really dynamic with our marketing strategies to really drill down and target that type of client then to drive that client through. So I think for us, that partnership with insurers and sharing data is massively important. And then we both benefit because we can share the data back, obviously, with insurers regarding uptake rates as well as generating more business, and they assist us in winning more business, really. So yeah, data is one of the pillars of Compare. Basically, it's what data drive efficiencies and drive the business. But I do see a future where we collaborate more with insurers in sharing effective data to benefit both parties.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you ended on there as well. And is that something that you're kind of reflecting back from the other side, Rebecca? Is Aviva kind of looking to share more of that data?
Absolutely, Mark's spot on. I think it's incredibly key to share it, and I think that's not just necessarily from a trading perspective. That is a huge part of it, and a huge part of Chris's role to share with our brokers what we're seeing from our perspective, and how we can use that to support them to grow and to support us to grow together. I think the other side then is as well, particularly as Aviva, we are a large company. We have a breadth of data that we can utilize and use to, whether that's to inform pricing and improve the accuracy of pricing and the sophistication there, or whether it's more recently where we have equipped both our underwriters and our brokers with information about underinsurance. We know that that's widespread in the market. We know it's a very difficult area to tackle, but actually being able to flag where we believe underinsurance to exist and what we believe the correct sum insured to be, that's a really useful tool for brokers to be able to support conversations with their customers. And then I think when you back that up with propositions such as free uplift to 24 months on business interruption indemnity periods, I think that gives you a really good strong proposition that both is supporting the broker and most importantly supporting the customer having the right level of cover. So that data sharing is really key in that process, and absolutely we share the data that we have with our brokers on their customers and their stats and their performance, and to help drive that business forward. But also, actually, how can we also utilize and share the data that we have as the size of the company that we are to help better customer outcomes as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the power of data, and it's obviously something that we collect data on the e-trading process as well, Seth, don't we? And it's is this something that is often comes out as one of the benefits of the e-trade process?
Yeah, of course. So with the kind of e-trading survey, of course, one of the things that kind of really came out was those insurers like Aviva that kind of really excelled and did really well, and have done for a number of years, formed that partnership, across their broker kind of base. And I think that really improves the kind of understanding of kind of the of how better kind of data can kind of enable better, whether there's better automation, fewer kind of stop-start journeys, improving that data kind of quality kind of up front. And I think on a more general level, having that continuous kind of feedback loop as well. So whether it's about the referral process or the data that can be shared, because of course as the market keeps evolving and new kind of data points are available as well, understanding more and more from both sides really becomes a partnership, and it really comes down to that. Of course, it's not just the insurer's responsibility, it's also brokers' responsibility as well. And by working together to understand that the data sharing kind of process and what areas that you can kind of grow into in the future can really benefit the entire process and journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the specific aspects of data that we collected in the report that I guess is quite useful to brokers is around this. What would be the best way to reduce unnecessary referrals? And I know that brokers had a variety of opinions on that, kind of based on their their business models. But what came out in the report around that, quite because that's quite an essential part of speeding up the e-trade process.
Yeah, of course. So when we looked at that, one of the questions that we asked for towards brokers was, in the last kind of 12 months, what were the kind of reasons that they requested a underwriting referral? And 72% of brokers cited that the risk fell outside of the standard kind of underwriting appetite, and then followed by system-generated referral with 60%, and just on 59% was the request for pricing flexibility or kind of rate kind of adjustment. So I think reducing that friction is very kind of important, and being able to understand the appetite and make it more clearer as well, that will really kind of help reduce the number of referrals.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's something you're probably quite well placed to comment on, Mark, isn't it? Is there, what is it that generally leads to that referral process for you, and how would you like to see that fixed yourself?
Back to data, I think data enrichment is a massive tool for the industry now, where we can utilize that, I think, to reduce referrals. I would say, in fairness, we've seen a massive reduction in referrals organically from insurers having more succinct, better question sets, better underwriting. So from our perspective, we already are seeing less referrals. And I think the digital journey has become far more sophisticated. I still think there's still, talking about the brokers, there's still a reluctance in industry around how comprehensive that e-trade journey now is. I think most risks can now go via e-trade, and I think it's more of a switch in people's mindsets that you don't always have to have a conversation with an underwriter, and it doesn't always have to be a complex risk. You can submit, surprisingly large and more complex risks via e-trade, essentially. So that's our experience with that, and I think it's come a long way regarding the need for referrals via e-trade. We don't necessarily have an issue with that as a business, because most things get accepted, or if they do get referred, obviously, then we've got the facilities in place to resolve that very, very quickly.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's positive, and I do like the point you make about the mindset change. I think that's often one of the things that comes alongside technological development, that people kind of need to catch up with the capability, and that's something that definitely comes through in the report as well. But Chris, again, nice words from Mark there around the kind of lack of referrals that he's starting to see, and obviously there's a lot of work that goes into that from the insurer side. Could you give us a bit of color on what has actually gone into that process?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, it's a theme running through this whole panel conversation, but flexibility is really important. So ensuring that brokers don't have to call up every time they need, a small adjustment in premium to support a client. So that's something that we've continued to ensure that we offer the right level of flexibility to our broker partners. I think from an underwriting perspective, we typically see, whilst we've done we've had a real investment in reducing the number of referrals, we typically see a higher number of referrals in commercial combined. And our focus across this year has been around constantly refreshing and optimizing our appetite. And to Mark's point, adding more data enrichment sources through to enable us to be more to enable more straight through processing, whilst also working closely with actuaries to make the journey clearer for brokers, to avoid any unnecessary referrals or unnecessary declines due to incorrect information being captured. So those are probably the two areas that we're going to continue to really invest in over the next 6 months and into 2027, to continue to improve that straight through processing and reduce the number of unnecessary referrals.
Yeah, absolutely. I think and it's a good place to start. You've mentioned there kind of what you're looking to invest in the future as well, and we've managed to get to kind of beyond 50 minutes of an hour webinar without speaking about AI, which is obviously the big technological buzzword at the moment. But I think where some of the applications of it could be a little bit hyped, one of the ones where it does really have application is in digital trading and digital journeys like this as well. And I think that's a kind of interesting point to start to wind down on, Rebecca, is what is Aviva looking to do with AI into the future, and how you're exploring its uses with eTrade?
Yeah, and I think we did really well, not to mention it for 50 minutes, but and we already utilise it across a number of touch points in our digital journey. That largely is around actually supporting underwriters. We use it for the under-insurance flag. We use it in our proactive trading capability as well. So we are already using it in a number of places. I think as we look towards the future, what we want to be able to do is really use it and utilize it to help create efficiencies. And I think part of that is actually, how do we create more efficiency for our underwriters? So we've spoken a lot, right, about speed of response. How do we make sure that the underwriter has everything at their fingertips, if you want, as soon as that call comes in from Mark and his team, to be able, so that they don't have to move across different screens, they don't have to find different things out, or the broker doesn't have to wait on the phone whilst we open up something. It's all there immediately, and that's what we're looking at over the next sort of 6 to 12 months in terms of actually how can we support the underwriters to have everything at their fingertips, utilising AI to be able to do that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that flexibility and speed that the technology can provide is massive, especially in those kind of back office functions where you're providing the framework for the human to get on with their job is really important. And is that something that you see reflected on the broker side, Mark? Are you using AI to speed up the process as well?
Yeah, very much so. So we've used it for a while now from a compliance perspective. So essentially, we use AI to analyze 100% of our calls with clients, essentially, so we can match it to scripts, keywords. So it's a great way in real time of having full visibility in all aspects of the business from a compliance perspective. So we utilize it for that for a while, and that's worked really, really well. I think what we're testing at the moment now is, and the next thing is AI agents. So available 24/7, depending on when our clients need us, either from a business support perspective, or for things like retargeting previous lapses or previous marketing data. We've got, there's some really sophisticated AI agents now where we can engage with clients again, and they can arrange callbacks or get transferred into our team, all utilizing AI agents. So I think that's going to be the next development for us. Really, is expanding that out across the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that we picked up on in the research, obviously, as well, Savan, about the future of AI and where it could go. We're already seeing those efficiency benefits, but I think maybe if you could just speak to what some of the research said about where it can go in the future. It's always nice to end on a sci-fi note like that.
Yeah, of course. So in terms of course, in 2025, there was a lot of hype in terms of AI and all of the kind of areas, especially kind of the kind of non-trading categories that can be kind of utilized. But I think in 2026, there's been kind of brokers' kind of expectations has kind of dropped a little bit, and in terms of some of the areas that we looked at. So, for example, the top 3 areas that brokers felt that could be effectively enhanced by AI were fraud detection, data analysis and reporting, and regulatory compliance and reporting. But looking at we looked at this kind of question last year as well, and there's been a kind of a broad kind of cooling across all the different factors. So for example, data analysis and reporting last year was kind of 84%, and that has fallen sharply to 46%, and shares kind of top spot with fraud kind of detection, which had also kind of dropped from 73% down to 46%. So I think brokers very much see the potential with AI, but they want those kind of practical kind of improvements, and with any kind of use case of AI, I think what needs to be asked is how is this removing any kind of avoidable friction before a kind of human decision is needed.
Yeah, I think that it goes back to that conversation we had a little bit earlier about the balance that you need to have with eTrade as well, is that you can implement the technology, but as long as it's been implemented properly and it's actually helping with efficiency rather than just being a shiny new tool for people to have fun using. I think that's we are kind of approaching the end of our hour. And I think we'll start to wrap up. And I think what we can do with that is to go around the panel and really give some action points to the audience today as well. And I think what the main focus for most of our audience will be, how can they be better E-Trade partners, whether that's kind of from the insurer perspective or the broker perspective as well. So, Chris, I mean, what are you looking for in an E-Trade partner when you look at a broker? What would you like from them to be able to trade better with them?
Definitely, Yanis. So I think, look, my main ask would be to keep giving us feedback on where we can better support you, your teams and your customers. We're continually evolving our digital proposition, and, as a business, as a reference, we've delivered 192 changes year to date. And most of these changes and improvements have come directly off the back of broker feedback. So listening to what matters most to all of our brokers and their customers is a really important part of how we prioritize change at Aviva. So I just urge that kind of continual feedback loop to keep on coming, because we all act off the back of it. I think secondly, and it comes back to one of the earlier discussions on this panel, but on the topic of retention, if any of our brokers need additional support or flexibility for a particular client, please just give us a ring and talk to our teams in Perth. Our call answer and response times are really strong, and our teams are really primed to find solutions to help retain high quality business together. So it's really around how can we support you more with that greater feedback, and ultimately we'll support and delivering the service off the back of it.
Excellent. Anything to add from the Aviva perspective there, Rebecca?
I think Chris has got it absolutely spot on, Yanis. I think as he said, the feedback is so important. It helps us, know where to invest, where to drive our resource, where we need to do better, where we need to support our customers better, and how Aviva as a business can be that better E-Trade partner. So please absolutely keep that feedback coming. It's so important, and it really helps us drive forward and drive the strategy and drive better outcomes for both our brokers and our mutual customers. So yeah, I would absolutely echo Chris's ask there.
Lovely. And anything from you, Mark? I mean, you've built a digital broker. What would you be recommending to the audience about how to be a better E-Trade partner?
I think it's to have confidence in what risks will fit on an E-Trade journey. I think engage with it, and I think people might be pleasantly surprised what type of risks can get accepted relatively straightforward and quickly via E-Trade.
Great, there we go. There is some excellent advice to round us out today. As I said, I'm afraid that is all we have time for, but from Insurance Times and from our sponsor Aviva, thank you very much for joining us for the panel discussion today. I will follow up Sav's shameless plug from the start of the webinar by repeating it from myself. If you would like to have a look at 2026's E-Trade report, please do go to the Insurance Times website and check that out. That is available to all subscribers, and there are some fascinating, even deeper insights in it than we have got to today as well. But apart from that, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you to all of my panel for providing an excellent discussion. I've certainly learnt a lot, and all that is left to say is thank you very much and have a good rest of your day wherever you are. Goodbye.